Hi, this is Phil Baklar, and I'm here with Steph Brown, and we're talking about IFVP 2016. Only a couple weeks now, right, Steph?
Oh gosh, it's just days away.
It's like 3 weeks, right? So we're going to be there, and we're all looking forward to this. And so I'm going to talk to Steph about her breakout, and just for those of you who don't know Steph, how she got into what she does. And so, Steph, go ahead and introduce yourself, and let's talk about your breakout.
Okay, well, fantastic. Well, Phil, thanks first for doing this for me. I really appreciate it. It's always great to have somebody to talk with as you're explaining a few things. And maybe that's why I'm doing a session around dialogic organization development processes. I really love conversation.
Nice.
So just a little bit around the session. So what we're going to be talking about is how to be a better partner in the room. And we're going to do this by exploring some dialogic organization development frameworks. And so you might say, okay, what exactly does she mean by organization development? And what's this dialogic piece? And why do I need to know these things to be a better partner in the room? So let's first start by looking at what organization development is. And I'm really excited that this year we've got an entire track that's dedicated to organization development. And Phil, I can't wait to sit in on your session. It's going to be looking at some of the research theories and backgrounds to organization development, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
if you follow that track, you start off with Phil, which I think would be a really great thing. Then we've got some other sessions. I can't remember exactly what's in between.
A facilitator session, I think.
That's right, because facilitation is just really a core skill when you're up in front of the room.
Right.
And then we're going to move into my session, which is focused in on, like I said, being a better partner. So organization development itself is a field of research, theory, and practices that are dedicated to expanding the knowledge and effectiveness of people. Those people in the organization, so the organization can have better performance and effectiveness. So why OD? How did I get into this field? Well, basically, I've been in government federal government for, I guess, I counted it up the other day, it's 17 years. And there was a certain part of my career, I'd always worked as a facilitator, first around community organizing and conservation, and then later as a facilitator of sort of business requirements, technology change, again, for conservation. But there came a certain point in that organization's history where life at that organization wasn't so good anymore. They had brought in a management group to do a large-scale change process, and pretty quickly they turned all of us employees off to the whole idea of the change. They didn't listen to us. So I went back to get my master's in organization development because I knew that there were some better theories and ways of going about engaging people. And during that time, the very first session that I saw, or that I went to this school, I saw a graphic facilitator, Diane Klein, who was there capturing the information and using during a process called World Cafe. So literally, those two things are part of what I'm going to bring into this session. The World Cafe itself is one of these dialogue-focused organization development practices where you really learn what's happening with everybody in the organization through these very effective, small, rotating conversations. And so by the time you get done with that conversation, you feel like you've had a chance to talk to everybody. And then as a graphic facilitator, there's certain things that you might want to know about that structure so that you can be more effective in the way in which you go about capturing information from that designed conversation. So what brought me into organization development was the need to be able to engage people better and to understand how to use dialogue and conversation as a way to increase engagement. And then graphic facilitation for me came into a part of that as a way to make people feel even more engaged because they could see their voice up on the wall in that chart and say, hey, you've heard me because I see my words on that paper, which is now going to go forward and be used for the organization. That's a lengthy way of talking about how and why I got into this practice, and also why I want to lead this session and share with the participants many of the tools and processes that I've been encouraged to use in my practice, and also how to make you more comfortable and be a better partner to that facilitator in the room as you learn the processes and practices.
Right. It sounds, as I've talked to other people about the OD track, it sounds like it's going to be really valuable for people who want to move kind of from being graphic recorders into graphic facilitators, give them more confidence about leading and being in front of a group.
Yeah, and I'll also say that understanding, even if you're just there as a graphic recorder, which, you know, by the way, there's nothing wrong with you know, having more emphasis on the graphic recording side of it. We don't all necessarily want to be up there literally facilitating and leading the conversation. There's a role for everybody to play in this really complex organizational change world that we live in. But the thing I will say is if you understand in either one of those roles, what is going on in the process of the work that you're doing, whether you're the recorder, the facilitator, or a co-partner in the room, if we know where we're going to be going to, we can design and understand better how we can support it.
Right.
So for instance, when I started going to conversations, when I first started going into conversations, people with other facilitators, they would say things like, we're going to be doing a marketplace at this point, then we're going to follow that with an open space, and then we're going to move into a World Cafe. So right there, if I don't know those processes and you've just, as a facilitator, shared, here's our process, I've got a lot of questions that I might want to ask. However, if I've been informed enough around those particular processes, the questions I ask can be a better information for myself and for that facilitator, because I can go, hey, when you're doing that cafe, are you going to be asking questions and doing small insight report outs at the end of each round? Or are you going to do it at the end? Because we have different ways we might want to record information in those cases.
Very nice. Great. Yeah, it's going to be great. I know that as I've prepped a little bit, some of the talk about dialogic has been the difference between diagnostic and dialogic OD. And so I'm going to be doing much more of the diagnostic history and some of those models that give people ways to think about framing the conversations and the interventions. So that'll be great. It's all going to come together really good.
It really is. And you know, the one thing I'll pull out around the dialogic aspect is often in organization development, we do talk about, you know, the system as an organism. So it adapts to change. And in the dialogic framework, we really think of conversation as the means for that change, the way in which we socially construct the world around us. Yeah. And so understanding that there are these really, and the conversation side of it as an engaging tool with the visuals together really brings a great deal of meaning and a lot of purpose and opportunity and action for those organizations.
That's great. It's terrific.
But I do want to mention one other really exciting development that's happened with my breakout session, and that's that Robert Mittman, one of my favorite facilitators that I partner with, is going to come and join us. He's going to be speaking earlier in the morning on Anthony Week's panel about listening, and then he's going to come and join us. And one of the reasons that I invited him into the conversation is he has very dialogic focused sessions. However, he doesn't really follow any one particular frame. He marries up a lot of different frames for whatever meets the needs of that organization. So working with Robert, you're always curious around how we're going to be flowing through the conversation over the course of a day or two. And so Robert's going to talk a little bit about his process and how, as a partner in the room, you can be more reflexive and help to follow along and support the way in which he facilitates. So again, I think it's going to be a really great experience. So you'll come in, you'll learn a little bit about dialogic OD. You'll learn from Robert Mittman, who has some very specific ways in which he thinks that as graphic recorders, we can be a better partner in the room, and learn his way of going about a dynamic facilitation model. And then we'll talk some more specifically around 3 or 4 specific dialogic frameworks, World Cafe, Open Space, Appreciative Inquiry Summit, and Design Thinking, and learn more about those. So when you leave, I hope you'll have a better grounding in what we mean by dialogic OD, and also have some great frameworks and understand the underlying group dynamic theories below those. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it is. The whole track is going to be a great introduction and set up people to create some plans for their own personal development. So that'll be great. All right, well, thank you. And so I think we know who should attend. It should be pretty much everybody. So
that's right.
We'll go from there. All right, thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Phil.